Mark Hughes in the Telegraph UK is reporting that a prominent brain surgeon now is a believer in God and in heaven. Dr. Eben Alexander, a Harvard-educated neurosurgeon, fell into a coma for 7 days in 2008 after contracting meningitis. During his illness, Dr. Alexander said that the part of his brain which controls human thought and emotion shut down, and that he experienced, quote, something so profound that it gave me a scientific reason to believe in consciousness after death. In an essay for Newsweek, Dr. Alexander said that he was met by beautiful, shimmering beings. He continues, were they birds? Were they angels? He said neither of these words do justice to the beings themselves, which were quite simply different from anything I have ever known on this planet, he said. They were more advanced. They were higher forms of life. Dr. Alexander added that a, quote, huge and booming, a glorious chant came down from above, and I wondered if the winged beings were producing it. The sound was palpable and almost material, like a rain that you can feel on your skin but doesn't get you wet. Dr. Alexander said that he had heard stories from patients who spoke of outer body experiences but had disregarded them as wishful thinking. He has reconsidered his opinion following his own near-death experience. He added, quote, I know full well how extraordinary, how frankly unbelievable all of this sounds. Had someone, even a doctor, told me a story like this in the old days, I would have been quite certain that they were under the spell of some delusion. But what happened to me was far from being delusional, as real or more real than any event in my life. That includes my wedding day and the birth of my 2 children. Then he added, I've spent decades as a neurosurgeon at some of the most prestigious medical institutions in our country. I know that many of my peers hold, as I myself did, to the theory that the brain, and in particular the cortex, generates consciousness, and that we live in a universe devoid of any kind of emotion, much less the unconditional love that I now know that God has towards us. He says, but that belief, that theory, now lies broken at our feet. What happened to me destroyed it. Do you ever wish that you could more powerfully, succinctly, and accurately speak to the message of your Christian faith and the Word of God? This is the book you need, The Magic Man in the Sky, Effectively Defending the Christian Faith. This book has been featured on TBN, Atlanta Live, dozens of radio programs, and hundreds of markets. It was rave reviewed by the Washington Times, and it was called a must-read book. Considering the times in which we now live, you need this book. Get it today on Amazon.com or the WND Superstore.